The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for taking time out of your day today to join us for this Prodsmart webinar. My name is Joy. I am part of the customer success team here at NextGen, and I'll kind of be running this behind the scenes. Before I pass this over to Eric Miller, our technical solutions manager, I wanted to remind you, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, use those Q&A section in your screen controls to drop those questions, and we'll get those answered. Otherwise, we'll point you in some resources at the end as well. Eric, if you want to go ahead and move to the next slide here, thank you. So real quick, just before again, I'll just remind you of who we are. NextGen Solutions, we specialize in design and manufacturing. We've been around for quite a while. You may also know us as NextGen CAM. We originally started out with kind of a focus on the CAM side of things, and we've now expanded to be an all-encompassing kind of solution provider. So one of the ways that we do this is as an Autodesk Gold partner. You can also see here that we have a couple of accomplishments underneath our belt that we're pretty proud of, as the 2022 and 2023 top Autodesk Service Delivery Partner. And we're also a Gold Learning Partner as well. So training and services really kind of is at the heart of who we are. And we fully realize that software is just software unless you're fully utilizing all of its capabilities and seeing that ROI in your investment. So we are definitely committed to providing you with resources, learning opportunities, ways to make sure that you are getting that value from your software. So with that quick little introduction, I will pass it over to Eric.
Hey, thanks, Joy. We've also got David on today if we can, if there's any questions from the sales end. But yeah, I think, today we're going to talk kind of high level about what Prodsmart is. Now, this is a tool that Autodesk acquired here. It's been a little bit over a year, and as a VAR, as a value-added reseller here, we've been just chomping at the bit to be able to get our hands on this thing and be able to take it to our customers. So within the last, I think it's just been a month or so that Autodesk finally now has transitioned this over into the hands of the reseller network. And so this is something now we're able to help. We're able to support our customer base, and we're able to help implement this. So our team is we're already kind of geared up for it. And so if there's anything we can do, if you want to see demos of this, going forward, obviously we'll talk about it today. But if you need any other information, please reach out to us. Our team is definitely poised here to make this successful for your company. So a couple of things we'll talk about today is just the benefits of digitizing your workflow. And really that's what Prodsmart's all about. We're going to put this into basically a web-based platform now. Instead of using the old methods, I mean, I come from my background's in mechanical engineering, but spent a lot of time on the manufacturing side as well on different teams. And it's chaos, sometimes in the factory. So anytime we can kind of put a little bit more control, a little bit more data acquisition, and a little bit more tracking and things like that around our factory, around our shop floor, it's going to be huge ROIs on that stuff. So that's really what Prodsmart's going to help you with. And obviously just the ability to kind of have that information flow. My primary area of expertise is data management and design. But again, I do have a lot of background in the manufacturing and in the, actually on the floor. And, obviously the days go by a lot faster when you're actually over there in the shop kind of doing stuff versus, what my career has been mostly is in front of a computer doing the design side and data management. But they do obviously both need to talk to each other. So I think that's the beauty of this too, is that, most of our customers that we work with, they have a design team. They've got all these different teams that need to work with data. And so if we can get it to flow, consistently and without having to re-enter anything, from start to finish till that product is shipped out the door, and even post shipment, like just kind of tracking service and things like that. We want to get these systems connected. And obviously in today's age, we have that ability. So I think that's really the thing to take a look at is where are the bottlenecks in your current system. So we'll take a look at that. How can we even, once we get this into place too, we can also analyze your data. So that's kind of that second bullet item there, analyzing what's actually currently happening in your factory. Why aren't things going out on time, or why aren't we meeting our our build schedules and stuff like that. So the build requirements and the number of products that need to get created. So we can analyze that data and obviously try to figure out where we can put in some other other pieces to help make a more efficient workflow. There's actually, I'll talk a little bit about it later too, but with that data, if we do need to make some changes, there's another tool in the Autodesk platform called Factory Design Utilities, which can kind of help also on just organizing, creating more efficient factory workflows. So again, that you may be seeing a little bit of that before. I've done a couple webinars on that, but so these can be really tied together. We'll take a look at some what our conclusions can be, what we can make from our data there, and then how to reach out to not just the Prodsmart team at Autodesk, but our Prodsmart team here at Next Gen Solutions. We work closely with Autodesk, obviously. We partner with Autodesk on a lot of different different projects and things like that. So it's great to have them as kind of the backbone of obviously this whole all the software that we work with. But I think where Next Gen can kind of be a little bit even beyond what Autodesk can do is we have a lot of that industry experience, and we've got people on our team that have been there, done that, and have been in the weeds and kind of know what works and what doesn't. I think the beauty of our company at Next Gen Solutions is we work with hundreds of customers, and so we help them with either improving the workflows, whether it even uses Autodesk products or not. I think that's one of the advantages we can provide is taking our industry experience and all the experience from other customers, see what works and what doesn't, and try to help you build the most efficient workflow. So we'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A at the end as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those, as Joy mentioned, into the GoToWebinar question queue, and we'll get those answered later on. All right. So again, we talked about all these different areas of a company, and as your company grows, these even get more and more difficult to kind of connect. I know we work with a lot of smaller companies where maybe it's just a couple designers, and half the time they're out on the floor working, side by side with the machine operators or this or that. But as you start to grow, you'll see that you kind of have to focus on your own tasks, and then you pass it off to somebody else. So all these different departments have their own, very important responsibilities day to day. So to be able to, and even just not even internally, but look, you can see in there too, it also lists the suppliers. So as you know, with COVID, how supply chain the supply chain issues out in our world really became at the forefront as far as being able to build products, and you're waiting for whether it be microchips or some type of materials. It got pretty difficult there for a while, and hopefully your company is starting to get back on track if you did go through any of that stuff. But we still kind of see the ripple effects of that. It takes a while to kind of get back on track if you're waiting for certain components. So obviously want to make sure, and then just the ability to transfer that information, not only to internally but then externally to a supplier as soon as possible, and make those orders happen when they need to. I think that's the thing that Prodsmart can kind of help with there too, is making sure those materials and everything our inventory doesn't get too low, so that we run out on the next maybe the next build that we do. So got to make sure we're managing that side of it as well. So some of this, obviously, if you've been around for a while, you probably have an ERP system, right? An enterprise resource planning system that does some of that for you. So there's some as far as routings and things like that, inventory, raw material consumption, some of that stuff can be controlled by an ERP. But when you talk about, what an MES system, manufacturing execution system like Prodsmart can do, is really manage that flow day to day throughout the factory. And I think, so it ties in a little bit. We're actually working with some customers right now to integrate with ERP systems with Prodsmart. So we want to make sure those, again, the information is just getting transferred where necessary. So we have that ability to help with that. So again, we look at the different, these kind of work in silos, I guess is what we like to call them sometimes. And you can even see some of the different file types there, whether it's a paper document or an Excel sheet or a Word doc or Outlook. I mean, obviously emails, back and forth. And if we can eliminate even just a percentage of that, you can really build better workflows and pass that information have some automations built in, stuff like that. So that's where Prodsmart is going to help us digitize all this and not have to have the constant back and forth of emails. Hey, did you see where this is at? Or did this part get done? And then you got to go check. And I was just out with the company that did a business process assessment where there was a lot of, conversations back and forth. And not that you still don't want to interact with your coworkers, but if you can avoid a trip, out to the shop and back just to check on something and just do a quick check in Prodsmart to see, oh yeah, it's currently at the lathe, so we're ready to go on the next phase of that, or it should be done in a certain amount of time. Then obviously that's very valuable, and again, the ROI there is pretty huge. All right, so a couple of things that can happen here in the current system, with the way a lot of our customers still work today, are missed deadlines. So obviously, if there's supply chain issues, that definitely led to a lot of that. But even just kind of the planning of it, and okay, we have all the materials, and then send it out to the shop, and maybe they don't have the right information. Maybe maybe a machine is currently being, I guess have some work done on it, stuff like that. Something broke down, or so they didn't know to send it to the other machine that's currently available. So there's different things like that can happen and cause missed deadlines. Obviously, bottlenecks we're trying to avoid, and so gathering the data, gathering some of those analytics is going to help us identify where those bottlenecks are at and then address them, instead of just trying to continue chasing our tail around when it comes to that stuff. Low profit margin. So the more time that's wasted, the more material that's wasted, and the more steps in the process, all that stuff leads to extra time, extra money. So we want to make sure we try to avoid that. We want to get obviously maximize our profit there. Excessive scrap and waste, like I guess I just mentioned. So depending on the types of, the types of tools you use there, whether obviously if you're talking about like a laser, there's nesting tools out there that help eliminate, or at least do the best possible job of eliminating waste. But who knows what else is, depending on the types of products that you make. There might be if something gets put on wrong or drilled wrong, and then you got to throw it out. I mean, any of that stuff, if it goes through the wrong routing process, could potentially lead to a part that gets scrapped. So we want to try to avoid that. Traceability issues. So I know it's something a lot of our customers deal with is, okay, they send it on a rack, and then who's in charge of it next, or they push it down to the next, and there wasn't any communication there potentially on who is the next person in line to be able to take that and then continue the build process of it. So traceability is a big thing. And then raw material procurement, as long as some customers will have that where there's just they just constantly restock, and it's up to somebody to kind of see, okay, our inventory is getting low on that particular tube or that particular part. So they just have to order more as they see the inventory get down. Well, what if that person's out for a couple of days or gets sick, and then all of a sudden you're out of nuts and bolts and you can't build anything? So obviously having some of that traceability and being able to procure that appropriately is going to help in the long run. Obviously, we've probably all been in a situation. Well, I guess I shouldn't say all of us. I've been around for quite a few. This is like my 21st year in the industry, so I've seen a lot of this kind of stuff. Worked with a lot of different customers where they'll either stick a paper ticket on a part, and hopefully you kind of cross your fingers and hope it makes it all the way to the end, right? So we've probably seen stuff like this, and obviously it's nice to have some of that information right in front of you, right on the part if it's big enough, obviously, but or maybe it's in a box, and then this is just kind of the paper piece goes in the box. But if you think about, obviously the risk there is pretty high when this is going through the factory. Whether it's gets next to a fan and blows off, or whatever tape is stuck to it wears off. So, and then obviously you're dealing with manual entry where it could be entered wrong, it could be hard to read, things like that. So let's just kind of take a look at what the trip here of that piece of paper, what happens here in the current production process. So we look at the start here. Starts at the production work order, goes through the materials, operation 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever those operations might be. Obviously, if you think about raw material coming in, again, most of the stuff I work on is kind of heavy machinery or ag equipment. So it's you probably have some steel that comes in on a sheet, right? Well, then we put it in the laser, and then or maybe even into a brake press, and then we maybe put it into a to a weld the weld area. It gets welded up there, and then it goes into the assembly area, and then it gets painted, or actually probably painted before it gets assembled, right? But so there's all these different operations, and any time that can kind of be taken away from the process. So anytime we can reduce there as far as some of these processes go, the better off we're going to be. And obviously just having the information on, okay, why is it at operation 1 30% longer than we expected? So we can look at some of that stuff and figure out why and how to build better efficiencies there. So all the way to the end, so we got the order complete, order packed, work order return, and then at the end there's our manual data entry to make sure it's all good to go. So we look, this is kind of the way it starts, and here's what you end up getting at the end. So our operation here, you can see it went from cut to drilling to assembly, finishing. Each person maybe put in their initials there, put in a time, and you're using different colors, maybe a pen. Actually, this is pretty impressive. I can actually read most of this stuff, but I guarantee that's not always the case. So, and this is pretty difficult to be able to just take this information, scan it in, and get anything out of it. And you can see the paper's actually kind of crumpled. So how do we, are you going to re-enter all this data in to try to gather some analytics? Well, obviously that takes a lot of extra time, and if you've got an intern with extra time, that's great, but that isn't always the case, and that isn't the best use of a person like that anyway. So let's take a look at why some of this stuff isn't necessarily the best way to go. So first off, it can be difficult to read or understand. In this case, like I said, it's actually pretty legit. Everybody kind of wrote legibly there, so not too many. I guess I don't know. It was always the old, if a doctor wrote it, you could barely read it, right? I don't know if that's still the case or not, but data may be collected along the way, but it's only communicated back to the management at the end of production. So we didn't have any idea where things stood. It could have been hung up at operation 1 for a week, and we wouldn't have known anything about it until you go out there and actually find it. So I think delayed data capture, delayed visibility, delayed problem solving are things there that can happen. Data is difficult or not impossible to analyze as a bigger picture. So again, we're really going to take all these sheets of paper and re-enter it into a spreadsheet to try to gather data. That's obviously not going to happen probably most places. So there's our process. A couple other things there that might come up that are potential issues is, okay, is the materials in stock there? As this paper process goes through, we need to know, can we even build this right now? So there might be an MRP system involved with that to go check, or there might be a spreadsheet, or you have to visually check, like I mentioned, kind of the racks. Everybody's, who's the rack guy that's supposed to go out and make sure that there's enough rebar, in there to build this or whatever. So operational availability. So is the machine up and running? Is there any maintenance? Is there any downtime? Is there is the worker for that station sick? What's the capacity there? How much can they crank through? So some of that information is always good to have too, and in this process, in the old process, is pretty difficult to get. And then at the end there, how do we analyze that? Again, so taking that information, how can we get better? How can we build things more efficiently? So that, we want to be able to do that. All right, so with all that, talking about the old way a little bit, well, here's the new way, Prodsmart, optimizing from the shop floor upwards. All right, so let's take a look at some of the things here that Prodsmart can do. We can automate and digitize your manufacturing process. So again, this is called an MES, a manufacturing execution system, that basically gets rid of the paper tickets, gets rid of the all the extra emails back and forth, all that kind of stuff, and gets rid of the spreadsheets and puts basically a digital tracker on your part, on the materials, on the raw materials, and who's working on what, all the different workstations, and allows that to kind of flow through the process. We get real-time visibility of what's happening on the shop floor as things are getting built and moving on to the next stage. So we can also then get long-term analytics once that process completes. Now we know how long it was at each specific station, getting all that data gathered back, the amount of time and money that it took to create that. Do we have any issues with materials or machines, things like that? So we can then build some better efficiency into that workflow based on those analytics. So you get immediate results, and then long-term results, we can actually make changes. That's how I was kind of saying the our analytics there can somewhat tie into, let's say a couple stations were just taking way too long. Well, if you go in and look at your factory layout, you can figure out, okay, well, obviously the problem here is that this machine can't crank through enough material fast enough or whatever it is. So whether we add another machine to that, do we have enough floor space? You can take advantage of factory design utilities, using your, different layouts and do the 3D, the Navisworks fly-throughs, clash detections to be able to make sure we build a much better workflow and organize our factory floor better. You can actually do that digitally before you even have to spend the money to go do it. So you got the data to back it up, go show how to do it, again, with factory design. And then you can actually go feel really confident, signing the check to implement a change like that in your factory. We know our return on investment is going to be there for that. All right, some things to analyze as we're doing this. How much time is being spent producing our products? So obviously time is money. And then who? We've had people there too, obviously, although it's funny you say, who is the least efficient, who is the most efficient? Well, obviously you don't want to point fingers too much there, but somebody might just not, maybe they need some training. There's definitely lots of ways to resolve potential, issues like that where, someone isn't meeting the bar. Well, it might not be their fault. They might have got thrown into it. I know it happens quite a bit. That's one thing, I guess. When I think of the who, something popped in my mind about it. I just saw McDonald's is actually kind of creating these new locations without anybody in them. So we'll see how that goes. But typically, in most of the customers we work with, there's still people involved, and they're very important in the process of getting things done and getting things built. So which process is the most efficient, least efficient? Which machine is the least efficient? So this can kind of help, again, identify, hey, this machine needs to be retired. The new machine can do 3 times the work of this one. So things like that can really help identify where your bottlenecks are. And then which products too. Obviously, maybe there's products that we need to kind of divert off into another, more of a custom product line. So, or another, assembly line or whatever it might be there. So it just gives us the data to make all those informed decisions. As far as waste goes, okay, so who's producing the most waste, what process, what machine, what product? So obviously we want to, that's the nice thing too. We talk about waste. Well, nowadays, some of the 3D printing stuff we can do, there's like kind of zero waste, which is nice. But I know not every product, not every customer has the ability to take advantage of stuff like that. But there's more and more capabilities out there that can help reduce waste. And I think that's just kind of, obviously we want to be, when you think about saving the planet, that kind of stuff, it obviously makes sense. We don't want to waste more than we have to, but I think when it comes down to companies being, hey, we're trying to reduce the waste and reduce the overall impact on the environment, well, most of the time that means putting more money in their pocket too, right? Because waste is money, basically, when you're throwing that out. So I think it just makes sense in a lot of different ways to try to reduce that. So conclusions from the data. So I think it's kind of funny. The first one listed here is Kathy needs to slow down. Usually you wouldn't tell somebody that's working really, really hard and doing a really good job to slow down. But it says finishing faster isn't always productive if you have to go back and rework everything. So Kathy might have been going a little bit too fast and maybe missed a step or two. And even though her productivity was way better, the results maybe weren't that great. That actually reminds me of I used to work for a construction company. So I got to go out to the test site, and me and this buddy of mine who was working there, we both were basically just testing out excavators, getting some hours on them, and it was kind of like we were racing in a way. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna dig this ditch as fast as possible, and I did beat him by quite a bit. But then I looked over, and his trench was immaculate. It was, the bottom was completely flat. Mine was all terrible. So definitely going fast doesn't always mean it's better, even though that was kind of fun. But yeah, that little tidbit, I guess, on that particular point there. But Sammy, and then the second item there, Sammy needs to speed up. So obviously there's some improvements there. Again, that might be training. It might be he doesn't have the right tools. There's lots of, and again, not Sammy could be I suppose a boy or a girl, or a man or woman, not to say who's who there. But anyway, the point is, I guess, that there's lots of different things we might need to take a look at there as far as why why is Sammy not getting the production? It says our glue gun, our glue up station and manual sanding station are the biggest scheduling bottlenecks. Okay, so we should invest in a second glue up station and a second manual sanding station. So if we're seeing that parts are just stacked up waiting to get in there, and we know that can't be sped up at all. I mean, it's not always about just adding more stuff. Maybe there are different ways to kind of do things in parallel there, or reroute stuff in order to not always have to spend more money on a machine. So we want to obviously take that and think about what other ways can we improve that. But sometimes it does mean just doubling the capacity. Our tabletop products have a much higher waste rate than our table leg products. They also take the longest time to produce. So it says consider focusing only on table legs versus the tabletop. So again, that could be just a different way to kind of think about how we should be doing production. Within our tabletop products, maple has the worst waste rate. So consider eliminating the wood species from the product list. Maybe not everybody's buying those anyway. Maybe you can use something else there. So it's definitely something to think about and to take that data in, and you can use it however you want. So I know we didn't get into the system actually. I do have access to it here today, but just for the sake of giving you a high level overview, one thing I will kind of mention, I think one of the kind of common questions is, is there barcoding, stuff like that? And there is. So there's tons of different capabilities within Prodsmart. I was just showing how you can get a 14-day free trial, which is kind of cool. Usually most of these data management tools, and I guess I look at this obviously in MES, it's managing data, right? But most of these tools there is, like I do a lot of work with Vault and a lot of work with like Upchain and some of the other data management tools for the design side. There's really not free trials out there for those. You have to kind of either commit or not. This is kind of cool that Autodesk is offering a 14-day free trial. And let us know if you do that. We want to help make sure you get it set up and is successful and matches your production needs. You don't have to always put everything that Prodsmart can do. I would say phasing some of that in is always a good thing. You don't want to bite off more than what your shop floor can chew and stuff like that. There's a ton of other stuff. We talked about just data tracking and managing the process and real-time inventory, all that kind of stuff, but you can also help with quality management. You can actually have work instructions get sent out through Prodsmart for each station to kind of let them know, okay, here's how I'm supposed to do this particular product. Here's how I'm supposed to do this as far as assembling or whatever it might be. Maintenance, you can set up maintenance schedules for your machines, things like that. I mentioned barcoding. So if you need to scan at each station just to kind of know where it's at, I mean, there's some really cool stuff you can do with this. Lots of capabilities that can be continued to add on, as this matures in your company. So you want to learn more about this, feel free to give us a call here. You can reach out to us at the email there as well, info@nextgensolutions. Feel free to contact me or David directly, or even Joy. Mine's Eric M at NextGen Solutions. David is just David. He's got just the one name. He doesn't have to have the last. I think that means he's more important. But so anyway, feel free to reach out to us. Check out our website. We've got some information out there on Prodsmart. We'll be happy. We're excited about this, and we really want to help you be successful with it. So just to summarize there, we kind of went through the benefits of digitizing, kind of looked at the old way versus the new way, talking about analyzing that data, conclusions made from it, and how to reach out to us. That, I guess we'll just kind of stop there and see if there are any questions. Anything come through there, Joy or David, anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, while we're writing on questions here, Eric, I was just going to say, I love, there's kind of a few key areas that I really like about this. Obviously, the API makes this a really powerful tool and can cover a lot of different areas, but I really love the inventory control, the scheduling, production, material resource planning, and then just the real-time visibility for management and everybody. So, I mean, those are just kind of the four key areas four takeaways I've seen from this product and where our customers have really embraced the software and had a lot of success. So anyways, I just want to say that. And then I did see one question come in, Eric. Will this integrate with other ERPs and other software?
Yeah, you bet. I think you kind of hit on it too right away there. The API that comes with this is accessible, it's mature, it's obviously, I'm assuming a lot of their customers out there probably don't have a team of programmers. Some do actually. So it's kind of cool if you have the ability to do that. But I think that's where, our team and our partners that we work with, we've got the capability to help you with that, to help our customers with that. But yeah, Prodsmart's got a great API, as with most of the systems out there. So ERPs, there's so many of them, obviously, but unless you're using a very old one that it's a little bit more like on-premise, server-based or whatever. I mean, not that some aren't. A lot of those are still server-based, but that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have an API. So the answer is yes. I mean, this is built to integrate. That's the idea here, is if you digitize something, you want to make sure that it is integratable. So going from the design side to integrating from a PDM, maybe directly to your, back and forth to your ERP, and then Prodsmart just fits right in there. So Prodsmart between your ERP, managing the routings and where things are going, making quick updates there, and then having it automatically reroute as necessary through Prodsmart. So that's a great question, and I think it's one of the key capabilities and benefits of using a system like this.
And I'm not seeing any other questions. Joy, are you seeing any questions coming in?
Nope, that was just the one so far.
Okay. All right. Well, again, yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today, and hopefully you've seen. I know there wasn't a whole lot about the live system actually. So if you want to see a demo of this, please reach out to us. We'd love to show it to you. And again, if you want to try the 14-day trial, we can help with that too. It's definitely something to take a look at, I think. And the nice thing is, with something like this, you think about implementing an ERP system is like a 3-6 month or year-long project sometimes, depending on the scale. Prodsmart, we're talking probably like, a couple weeks, if that. So I think the beauty of Prodsmart is it's a quick and easy thing, and you can scale it as necessary. So it's just, it's a web-based tool. So we're just, you'll load some of that data in for your products, and then boom, you can kind of hit the ground running and enter some of that routing in from machine, the different operations. So be quick and easy setup that we can help with, and then you're kind of up and running, and it's only going to get better for you from there as you start to kind of add on more of the capabilities that Prodsmart can do. So yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. Thanks, guys. I will take care of ending this right now.